Imagine this. For centuries, scholars, they scoffed at certain ancient texts, dismissing entire cities as just, like, myths,
Hmm.
exaggerated fables.
Purely literary devices, some thought.
Exactly. They said it was impossible, right? That these colossal metropolises, these centers of power and mystery, they just couldn't have existed outside the realm of imagination.
A convenient explanation, perhaps, when the evidence wasn't readily available?
What if they were wrong? What if the very ground beneath our feet held secrets so astounding, so meticulously preserved, they would completely redefine our understanding of history and even ancient engineering?
That's the exciting part of archaeology, isn't it? Challenging those long-held assumptions.
We're about to explore some insights that might fundamentally shift how we understand the ancient world.
Hmm.
Welcome to the cool, weird, and possible. Today we're diving deep into the biggest cities in the Bible that shock even experts. For anyone familiar with this stuff, the skepticism around certain ancient texts, well, it's been around for a long time.
Oh, absolutely. For too long, many cities mentioned were viewed with, let's say, significant doubt.
Often dismissed as just literary devices, right?
Yeah.
Not real places.
Precisely. But now, with shovels, science, and a healthy dose of curiosity,
Definitely need the curiosity.
archaeologists are unearthing tangible proof, real physical evidence, and it's revealing marvels that challenge pretty much everything we thought we knew.
So our mission in this deep dive,
Yeah.
we want to journey through these once doubted biblical cities.
Moving from that historical skepticism.
Yeah, from the can't be real crowd.
Right, to the concrete evidence that ultimately validated their place in history.
We'll try to uncover who questioned their existence, why they questioned it, and what incredible discoveries finally sort of silenced the critics.
Get ready for some serious aha moments because the truth often turns out to be far more compelling than fiction.
Okay, let's unpack this. Starting with a really foundational city for so many biblical narratives of the Chaldees' Abraham's birthplace.
A huge one.
Huge. But for centuries, many scholars considered it like a mere literary creation. Why? Why was there such a strong belief that a place this significant just couldn't have existed?
Well, that skepticism really gained traction back in the mid-19th century. There was a general lack of physical evidence directly linking to the biblical Ur at that time.
Right. No smoking gun, so to speak.
Exactly. And prominent theologians, someone like Julius Wellhausen, for instance, argued that the whole narrative around Ur was basically mythologization, just legendary storytelling layered onto history.
So it was a common challenge then. If you can't dig it up, it wasn't real.
Pretty much. It was a hurdle for many biblical sites. No physical proof meant it was easier to dismiss it as myth or legend.
So despite that strong skepticism, what was the breakthrough for Ur? What were the finds that really started to, turn the tide?
The archaeological turn. That came with excavations in modern-day Iraq, particularly in the late 19th and early 20th centuries.
Okay.
Teams literally unearthed the remains of this ancient city. And we're talking monumental structures,
Like what?
like the Great Ziggurat, those massive stepped temple towers.
Oh, yeah. Iconic.
And royal tombs, just packed with incredible riches, artifacts dating back directly to the Bronze Age.
Wow.
And these findings, they aligned remarkably well with the biblical descriptions of Ur's grandeur and significance. It essentially proved it existed. Sir Leonard Woolley's work there was pivotal, finding inscriptions that explicitly mentioned the city.
Okay, but I remember reading about a kind of geographical puzzle with Ur, too.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just if it existed, but where Abraham's Ur actually was. Yeah. Because of his journey towards Canaan, right?
Exactly. The route mattered.
Yeah, some scholars, like Cyrus H. Gordon, argued that Abraham's Ur was maybe in the Urfa-Haran region of south-central Turkey.
Up north.
Right, because Haran was en route to Canaan, which made more sense geographically than the Sumerian Ur way down in southern Mesopotamia.
That's a fascinating point, and it shows how discoveries can refine our understanding, not just confirm existence.
So it suggests archaeology can challenge even our maps, right?
Absolutely. But what's interesting is that the Ur discovered in southern Mesopotamia was a major port on the Persian Gulf back then.
A port way inland now, isn't it?
It is now, yes. But the coastline extended much further inland in ancient times. It was a bustling center of trade and luxury.
That makes sense.
Think gold, lapis lazuli, found right there in the royal tombs. And this fits well with Abraham potentially being, a wealthy trade caravan leader. The Bible describes him with vast herds, goods.
So man of means.
Potentially, yes. And interestingly, the city's eventual decline, it's largely attributed to that very coastline receding. It lost its strategic importance as a port around 500 BCE.
Wow. Environmental change shaping history right there.
Okay.
So moving from huge monumental let's talk about Ai.
A very different case.
Yeah, much smaller, but still really significant in the conquest of Canaan's story.
Yeah.
But often doubted because it just couldn't be found.
That was the problem. That 19th century skepticism hit AI too because early excavations just came up empty.
Nothing there.
Well, specifically, nothing from the right period. Joseph Callaway's digs in the 1960s at the site everyone thought was AI found no significant remains from the biblical conquest period around 1440 BCE.
So that fueled the didn't exist argument.
It definitely did, or at least that the story wasn't historical. The landscape just seemed to contradict the text. If there's no city, how can there be a conquest?
So the weird twist, as the outline calls it, the city was found, but not where expected.
Exactly. Not on a prominent hilltop, which is where you typically expect a fortress, right?
Yeah, usually.
Instead, it was found down in a ravine area. Excavations near modern Jerusalem eventually uncovered Bronze Age and Iron Age remains.
And what were the key finds there?
The details really matter here. They specifically found pivot rocks used for the gateposts, actual hardware from the city gates.
Wow.
And the biblical description, which mentions the gates facing north and specific land features around the city, that level of detail actually helped archaeologists pinpoint the correct location in the ravine.
So the text itself held the clues.
It really showcases the potential precision of these ancient texts once you finally find the right spot to dig.
Incredible. Okay, now let's turn to maybe the most iconic one, Jericho.
Ah, Jericho.
It has that amazing title. The oldest continually inhabited city in the world. Remains going back to 9000 BCE.
It's truly mind-boggling. Think about that time scale. Long before so much of humanity had settled down.
Layers upon layers of history.
An incredible testament to human resilience and adaptation, but that famous story of its walls collapsing, that posed a huge challenge for archaeologists.
Right, the whole walls came a tumbling down thing. How did that square with the archaeology initially?
Well, at first, initial findings, especially from the very influential archaeologist Kathleen Kenyon in the 1950s, her work suggested the city was actually deserted during the biblical conquest period, around 1400 BCE.
Deserted, so no one was even there.
That was her conclusion based on the pottery and destruction layers she examined. And that, naturally, led to major scholarly doubts about the whole story. If the city was empty, how could the walls have fallen during a conquest?
Okay, so here comes the shocking counter-evidence, right? If it was deserted, how did the walls fall? And in such a specific way?
This is where it gets really interesting. Re-examination of the archaeological data and considering other factors revealed Jericho is located directly atop a seismic fault line.
An earthquake zone.
Precisely. And even more astonishing, the archaeological evidence, when re-evaluated by scholars like Dr. Bryant Wood, confirms the walls did collapse, and they collapsed outward.
Outward, not inward, like from a siege.
Exactly. Collapsing outward creates a ramp up into the city, which is exactly what the biblical account seems to describe. It's not typical for a standard military siege.
Wow. So natural forces potentially playing a role.
It certainly adds a fascinating layer, doesn't it? The city's defense system was serious stuff. A great earthen rampart, a stone retaining wall at the bottom. And then 2 mud brick walls on top of that retaining wall, one higher than the other, towering up maybe 46 feet total.
That's a serious wall.
Absolutely. But when those walls collapsed outward, they formed a kind of ramp against that lower retaining wall,
Making it possible to climb in.
allowing attackers to effectively climb up over the top, just as the text suggests. Plus, archaeologists found a thick layer of burnt debris, about a meter thick.
So destroyed by fire.
Yes. And maybe the weirdest, most specific detail, they found many storage jars full of grain intact.
Grain. Why is that significant?
Because normally, invaders would take the food first thing. Finding full jars suggests the city was destroyed quickly after the walls fell and not systematically plundered for supplies, which again aligns very specifically with the biblical account where the Israelites were instructed not to take spoil.
That level of detail is just uncanny. Okay, let's shift gears to empires. Nineveh, capital of the Assyrian Empire.
Feared and powerful, known for their brutality and merciless actions in warfare.
In immense, right? Supposedly took 3 days to walk across.
It was colossal. Austin Henry Layard's rediscovery in the mid-19th century confirmed it. He uncovered vast palaces, temples, fortifications. The scale was real.
How big were the walls?
Wide enough for 3 chariots to ride side by side. Imagine that. Layard also found countless inscriptions, administrative records, confirming it as the Assyrian capital, detailing their campaigns. It was all there.
Okay, but here's the paradox, the weird part about Nineveh. This city, known for its brutality, apparently experiences massive conversion under the prophet Jonah,
Yes, the story tells of a collective repentance, the king down to the commoner.
which supposedly delayed the city's destruction for over a century. How do you reconcile that with their, fierce reputation?
It's a historical puzzle, isn't it? It certainly challenges our view of ancient empires as monolithic blocks. It suggests even the most, let's say, assertive regimes could potentially be swayed by a message of repentance, at least according to the narrative, a glimpse of surprising spiritual responsiveness.
A temporary reprieve, though.
Temporary, yes. When the city eventually did fall in 612 BCE to the Babylonians and Medes, the archaeological record is stark. A 2-meter thick layer of ash.
Wow. Tangible evidence of that destruction.
Absolutely. And Layard's digs also revealed King Sennacherib's palace, 80 rooms, intricate carved reliefs showing battles and conquests, and incredibly, a vast library.
The library.
More than 22,000 clay tablets, law, medicine, astronomy, a treasure trove of Mesopotamian knowledge.
Amazing. Okay, from Nineveh to Babylon, the city that, as the story goes, dared to challenge the heavens with its grandeur. The Tower of Babel story comes to mind.
Babylon reached its absolute zenith under Nebuchadnezzar II. It became one of the largest cities in the ancient world.
The scale must have been immense.
Think walls up to 90 meters high. 90 meters.
Yeah.
And the Ishtar Gate, dazzling blue glazed tiles, intricate animal reliefs, pure spectacle designed to impress and project power.
And the legendary Hanging Gardens, a wonder of the ancient world.
Built, supposedly, with advanced hydraulic systems that really defied the engineering logic of the time. How did they get water up that high in that quantity?
So, what happened? What does its fate tell us about even the grandest human achievements? Why is it in ruins now?
Well, unlike many ancient cities that were destroyed and rebuilt, Babylon is largely uninhabited today, and there's a powerful ecological lesson there, possibly.
Environmental factors.
Yes. Things like soil salinization from centuries of intensive irrigation,
Yeah.
basically poisoning the land, making large-scale agriculture unsustainable over time. And shifting trade routes also played a big role. It gradually declined and was largely abandoned by the 10th century CE. Even a city designed to challenge the heavens was ultimately subject to environmental and economic forces.
And strikingly, the Bible describes it prophetically as becoming desolate, cursed, uninhabited.
A reality pretty much confirmed by its current state. It's a powerful alignment, text, tangible outcome. Makes you wonder about the long-term view embedded in some of those prophecies.
Okay, let's move east to Susa, a key capital of the Persian Empire.
A city of serious opulence. Palaces featuring marble, gold columns. The royal palace complex itself was enormous, exceeding 10 modern football fields in area.
10 football fields. Just the palace.
Gives you a sense of the Persian Empire's grandeur and administrative reach.
And it's within this setting, this massive, opulent palace, that the story of Queen Esther unfolds
A young Jewish orphan who becomes queen.
and saves her people from genocide. It's an incredible story of how one person, seemingly powerless initially, changed the destiny of an entire nation from inside the heart of this huge empire.
And archaeology provides context here, too. The discovery of royal archives at Susa, thousands of clay tablets, corroborates the highly advanced administrative system described in the Book of Esther. Decrees, transactions. The machinery of empire was real.
It grounds the story, doesn't it?
It does, and Susa has another connection, too.
What's that?
It was from Susa that Nehemiah departed, with the blessing of King Artaxerxes, to go back and rebuild Jerusalem's walls.
Ah, right. So Susa was really a pivotal place, a crossroads of history.
Definitely. Now, how about Tyre, the Phoenician powerhouse?
The maritime empire, an almost invincible city built partly over the sea, right? Mainland and island sections.
Exactly. A major trading hub sending ships all over the Mediterranean. But its real treasure,
Purple dye.
the famous Tyrian purple, extracted from tiny sea snails, murex mollusks, incredibly labor-intensive.
How it worked?
It supposedly took 10,000 mollusks for just 30 grams of dye. 30 grams. That's why it was literally worth more than gold.
Wow. And the dark humor or irony, Roman soldiers clothing Jesus in this most expensive, exclusive color to mock him as king.
A strange historical echo, using the ultimate symbol of earthly royalty for mockery, perhaps without fully grasping its value.
And Tyre also played a role in Solomon's temple, didn't it?
A crucial one. King Hiram of Tyre supplied the famous cedars of Lebanon, plus skilled craftsmen for the construction. They even floated the massive logs down the coast on rafts. Shows Tyre's influence and resources.
Okay, but the prophecy about Tyre being cast into the sea. That sounds impossible for an island fortress. How did that happen?
It took centuries and a very determined conqueror. Nebuchadnezzar besieged the mainland city for 13 years but couldn't take the island.
So who did?
Alexander the Great. He did the unthinkable. He used the rubble and debris from the mainland part of Tyre
Wait, used the old city?
to build a causeway, a land bridge
Wow.
nearly a kilometer long, straight out to the island fortress.
No way. He built a road across the sea.
He did, one of the most audacious military engineering feats of antiquity. And in doing so, he literally fulfilled the prophecy that Tyre's stones and timber would be cast into the midst of the waters.
Even today.
Today, Tyre is a peninsula, not an island, forever changed by Alexander's causeway. A stunningly precise fulfillment centuries after the prophecy was recorded.
That's incredible. Okay, let's anchor things a bit. Hebron, not massive like Babylon, hugely significant, right?
Profoundly significant, historically and spiritually. It holds the tomb of the patriarchs. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Leah, believed to rest there.
And Abraham buying the cave of Machpelah there, that was the first piece of land officially acquired in the Promised Land, wasn't it?
Exactly. A powerful symbol, the first tangible foothold, the down payment, you might say, on the divine promise of the land.
And the structure there now, the engineering.
The massive wall built by Herod the Great around the site is astounding. Perfectly carved stones, some weighing over 8 tons. The precision fitting is just incredible ancient engineering. How did they move those blocks?
Hard to imagine. And another cool fact.
King David's first capital.
Yes, for 7.5 years before he took Jerusalem. And its sacredness continues today for 3 major religions, a testament to its enduring weight.
Absolutely. Now, Bethsaida, the last lost city of the gospel.
Hometown of Peter, Andrew, and Philip. Site of miracles, like feeding the multitudes. Finding it would be huge for New Testament studies, but it's been elusive.
There's been this ongoing debate between 2 main sites, Etel and El-Araj.
And where does it stand now?
Well, after a lot of work and recent discoveries, El-Araj is now considered the leading candidate by many researchers involved in the excavations there.
And the discoveries, are they exciting?
Very. At El-Araj, they've found a Roman bathhouse. Now that's a bit unexpected in a Jewish village.
Right. Seems out of place.
But it's actually consistent with Herod Philip transforming the village into a Greco-Roman polis, renaming it Julius. They have also found clear evidence of Jewish life, like stone vessels and oil lamps from the period.
Okay.
And crucially, a Byzantine church built over the site with a mosaic floor inscription mentioning veneration to the chief and commander of the heavenly apostles, widely interpreted as referring to Peter.
Wow. Dedicated to Peter.
Plus, they found a layer of silt about 40 centimeters thick beneath the Byzantine floors, suggesting ancient flooding from the Sea of Galilee.
Maybe that's why it was lost.
Yeah.
Covered up.
Yeah. It's certainly a possibility. These finds offer such a tangible link back to Jesus' ministry, the lives of the apostles. It really helps flesh out the gospel stories.
Okay, another New Testament mystery. Emmaus.
Ah, yes, the post-resurrection appearance site. Crucial story, but where did it happen? Still debated.
Why is this one so hard to pin down?
There are several candidate sites, Emmaus Nicopolis, Qubeibeh, Abu Ghosh, and the ancient manuscripts themselves have conflicting distances from Jerusalem. Some say 60 stadia, others 160.
That's a big difference, like 7 miles versus 18 miles.
Exactly. That discrepancy has really complicated identification for centuries. Which tradition is correct, which site fits?
But there are recent developments, excavations giving clues.
There are. For instance, a 2019 find of a significant Hellenistic-era fortification at Kiryat Yearim near Abu Ghosh has led some to argue strongly for that location matching the 60 stadia tradition. Others still favor Nicopolis for the 160 reading. The potential for discovery here is huge, offering a direct physical link to that pivotal post-resurrection story.
A missing piece of the puzzle, still waiting. Okay, let's go big again. Alexandria.
Alexander the Great's dream city, designed as a city of light, a perfect grid like a chessboard, avenues wide enough for dozens of chariots, a beacon of Hellenistic culture.
And its most famous wonder, The Library of Alexandria.
The Google of Antiquity. Housing, estimates say, over 700,000 papyrus scrolls. Basically, all the collected wisdom of the ancient world in one place.
Just imagine. The loss is staggering.
Truly. But its profound impact on faith, arguably, comes from the translation work done there, specifically the Septuagint.
The Greek Old Testament.
Yes, the first Greek version of the Hebrew Bible, commissioned there, likely in the 3rd century BCE. This made the scriptures accessible to the huge Greek-speaking world, including diaspora Jews and, later, early Christians. It bridged Hebrew and Greco-Roman thought.
Paving the way for Christianity's spread.
Absolutely. And you can't forget the Lighthouse of Alexandria, the Pharos.
Another wonder of the world. How tall is it?
Around 140 meters tall. Its light was supposedly visible from over 50 kilometers away, a symbol of innovation, enlightenment, guidance. Alexandria was a true cultural bridge, home to the largest Jewish community outside Palestine. Its influence was immense.
Okay, last one. And maybe the most controversial. Sodom and Gomorrah.
The cities of the plain destroyed by fire and brimstone, according to Genesis. Still debated, still searched for.
And there's that scientific theory about what might have happened.
Yes, the cosmic airburst theory, primarily linked to the site of Tal el-Hammam in Jordan. The idea is that a meteor or comet exploded in the atmosphere around 1650 BCE, causing a massive fiery shockwave.
What's the evidence for that?
Proponents point to things like pottery melted at extremely high temperatures, building materials seemingly blown in one direction, and shock quartz minerals deformed by intense pressure, often associated with impacts.
But didn't that theory run into trouble? The conspiracy or weird angle here is the controversy around the findings themselves, right?
Yes, it's become highly controversial. The initial major paper, published in Nature Scientific Reports, faced significant criticism regarding methodology, image analysis, and interpretation of the evidence. Parts of it were later retracted or corrected.
So the science itself is heavily debated.
Intensely debated. It really highlights how difficult it is to definitively prove catastrophic ancient events, even with potential physical evidence. Interpretation is key, and scrutiny is fierce.
And beyond how they were destroyed, there's the debate about why, according to the text, right,
Sure.
the sin of Sodom.
That interpretation has also evolved. While popular culture often links it solely to specific sexual acts, many scholars, looking at other biblical texts like Ezekiel 16.
What does Ezekiel say?
Ezekiel 16.4950 lists the sins of Sodom as arrogance, overabundance of food, prosperous ease, and crucially, not aiding the poor and needy, basically, gross inhospitality, and social injustice. So, scholarly views increasingly point towards broader issues of arrogance, injustice, and violence against strangers rather than a single issue.
So the Bible describes what happened, but interpretations of why have shifted.
Exactly. The narrative remains powerful, but understanding its nuances requires looking at the broader textual context.
Fascinating. So, regardless of the exact cause or the specific sin, the story persists as a potent symbol, and the search, well, it continues. One of the great archaeological mysteries. So, after all that, what does this all mean for us, you think? These cities, buried in sand, buried in skepticism.
They're literally unearthing new layers of understanding, aren't they? They act as this incredible bridge between ancient texts, which were often dismissed, and tangible, verifiable history.
Proving that what seemed like myth was actually, well, remarkably accurate in its descriptions sometimes, even if interpretations change.
Precisely. Think about Jericho's walls collapsing outward on a fault line, or Nineveh's documented fall after that period of supposed repentance, or even Babylon's decline, potentially linked to environmental factors predicted, in a sense, by prophecy.
These aren't just confirmations of existence.
No, they offer profound insights into ancient life, incredible engineering feats, the rise and fall of empires, environmental impacts, the very forces that shaped human civilization.
Which really raises that question, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What other secrets are still out there,
Yeah.
still buried, waiting to be unearthed?
Secrets that could further challenge or confirm our understanding of the ancient world? Absolutely. The ground is still full of surprises.
So, what stands out to you listening to this? Did any of these cities reshape your perspective on history? Maybe spark a new conspiracy theory? We hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into the biggest cities in the Bible that shock even experts. Thank you for joining us on Cool, Weird, and Possible. If you want to keep exploring the unexpected connections, science, history, the truly wild what-if scenarios, make sure to subscribe to our channel. You won't want to miss our upcoming deep dives.